Hey everybody, welcome to Pink Shade. It is Thursday, so that means we're going to talk Bravo. It's Shades of Bravo Thursday. But before we start with our guest, I want to announce a couple of things. So there's going to be a Bunkie meetup on Saturday, March 30th in LA. It's going to be at the Mosaic Hotel in Beverly Hills. Outside, there's a pool there. We're going to have a bar. We're going to have food. It's going to be super chill. We're going to gather. I think Kimberly from A Date with Dateline is going to come. I'm going to try to lure in some other podcasters with the promise of a free drink. So be on the lookout in the show notes next week. There'll be a link, like an Eventbrite link next week to RSVP with more details about that. Also on Prime, for everybody wondering, yes, episode 12 of the Love is Blind finale is out right now on the $10 level of Pink Shade Prime. It's out with video as well. And then on the free feed Monday, you will get that 2-part episode 12 Love is Blind finale. That'll be on Monday on the free feed. Tuesday, of course, 90 Day Fiance Tell All with Kimberly. And then next Thursday will be more Shades of Bravo with, I'm hoping, Ryan Bailey. Over on the $5 level of Pink Shade Prime, we are covering Seeking Sister Wife. Yes, the return of Seeking Sister Wife. And 90 Day Fiance, The Single Life, the show that will never end. So that's what's happening here on the pod. There's going to be a meetup. There's stuff going on Prime. But today we're here to talk about episode 2 of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion. I've got my friend and my guest. It's Jodene Weber. We call her Jodi. You know Jodi from her Patreon, Caught in My Web. And also she's on our good friend Kate Casey's podcast quite a bit. I believe you're on today, Thursday, talking about Brian Koberger. So we're going to talk about that at the end too. But today we're going to start with Bravo. How you doing? Are you ready?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back. Great to see you. I can't wait to talk about this.
You're very obsessed with the Kyle situation.
I am. She drives me crazy.
Really?
Yes. The hypocrisy. Oh, game on. Here we go. I'm ready.
Okay,
I'm ready.
Well, explain that part to me first. Explain that to me.
4 years, we have watched Kyle Richards say, just be honest, just be honest. You know who's not being honest, Mary Payne, is Kyle Richards.
But maybe this week we'll find out.
Well, we'll see. But you know what I think, and I'm not talking about her and Morgan. I'm talking about her and Mauricio and that lawsuit that Mauricio was involved in.
Okay.
I believe that there have been problems for 3 to 4 years. I believe that clip we saw last night with Kathy Hilton was on the money. I do believe, in many long-term relationships, things start to level out a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I do think the fact that they really don't have engaging dialogue. They're not really talking about issues. They're both just kind of orbiting around each other and glossing over things and brushing things under the rug. You've got him high as a kite half the time on pot or weed, I guess you should say. I'm showing my age there. But I think
on the marijuana, the Mary Jane.
Yeah. But I think that was starting to become an issue, along with the fact that they only talked about logistics. They didn't really talk in depth and really connect and really get down to the nitty gritty in issues. And then we see this big lawsuit hit.
Okay. Uh-oh. Where'd you go? Oh, shit. Hold on. What happened?
I don't know.
Okay.
We lost connection there. It's going on at the same time as this lawsuit with Erica and Tom. So for a little bit there, Kyle gets a shield. She's shielded from what's going on with Mauricio with the business. But Kyle has some background. She took that real estate exam with Mauricio, and that's why the producers put that clip in. Back years ago when he was fired, we got our real estate licenses. So when she sees this lawsuit, she knows, oh boy, we could be in big trouble here. And not only could we be in trouble, I could be in trouble. I just sign anything. And oh, by the way, our daughters are all employed here. And then on top of that, you've got her best friend dying, and he's not offering her the level of support and comfort that she needs. And then we hear her say that she found something in his DMs. and that it was the female was the aggressor. Well, let me tell you what.
Now, wait, where did we see that? Because I don't remember that.
That clip, it was mentioned when they all had that lunch for Anne Marie. And she said that she caught something in Mauricio's DMs that the female wasn't an aggressor, but he had basically took the bait a little bit and responded and then liked some postings on social media. And so she's like, that's a no-no for me. Now, if all this is going on simultaneously while she's trying to grieve her friend and she's worried about the business and she's not feeling supported and she's feeling disconnected, I think to me, that's the deal breaker. She lost her trust in Mauricio and she doesn't want to talk about that lawsuit. So for her to talk about her friend that she lost, to talk about Sutton, she's mad at Sutton because remember when this season started, she and Kathy were on the outs. And of course, Sutton and Kathy were super chummy. So therefore, Sutton became enemy number one because with Kyle, it's you're either my team or you're Kathy's team. And we're also seeing Kyle say that to Dorit. Well, you were backing up Kathy last year at the reunion. And for me, it's like, you know what, Kyle, you want everybody else to be honest, but you're not really being honest. You weren't honest last year about what Kathy did in Aspen. You were happy when Erica and Lisa Rinna brought it up, but then once it backfired on you and Kathy said, all right, well, I'm not going to talk to you and my children aren't going to talk to you and I'm going to make your life rough, then you all wanted it to go away. And now here we are a year later. She doesn't want to talk about Mauricio's lawsuit. She doesn't want to talk about the Aspen thing again. She shut Dorit down last night. To me, Kyle picks and chooses what she's willing to talk about. And then she fires back at people like Sutton, like, well, all you talked about was your horse and your cashmere line. That's not all Sutton talked about. Sutton was a very good friend to her, having related to the suicide storyline because of what she went through with her father. We saw a great arc with Sutton as far as, okay, I've relied on all these men in my life, my father, my husband, my ballet teacher who was my mentor. I got to learn to stand on my own 2 feet. I'm in my mid-50s now. It's time for Sutton to shine. I thought it was a very great self-actualization storyline we saw with Sutton. And I think after Kyle, she had the strongest storyline of the season. I don't think anybody cared about Dorit. I don't think anyone cared about Crystal's brother. Erica had a little bit of redemption, but we're really not seeing the truth with Erica in regards to her lawsuits and what she's going through still to this day. So I think Sutton had a really good storyline, and I felt Kyle last night was so hypocritical. Sorry, I rambled on there, but that's what I think.
That's what I really wanted to hear because I don't necessarily agree with you about Kyle. I'm not like a big Kyle fan. Like, you know, it's very rare that any people on these shows that I'm just like, I am just die hard to the ground for this person. Like I kind of always felt that way about Bethany because I found her so freaking entertaining and smart and quick. But with her latest stuff, I'm like, okay, we don't need to see you at TJ Maxx and stuffing food in your face.
I agree.
Like I'm done. Like I liked your makeup talks, but I'm done. It took a lot for me to turn on Bethany, but I finally did. And I'm just never really just like ride or die. I do love Marisol on Miami. I find her so entertaining.
She's funny.
But and Sutton I've always liked, I think just because it's a Southern thing. But you know, when I found out she got $300,000 a month, that is such a staggering sum of money.
That's just her alimony.
That's
payment.
her alimony.
That's not all her investment income from like the minor league baseball teams and everything else. That woman is loaded, but good for her. Good for her.
I'm not mad at her about it. I'm like, hey, good for you. It's not like.
Do you know what I love about Sutton? I love her Southernisms.
Yes.
And I love her goofiness, and she's a little bit, you know, quirky sometimes.
Eccentric,
but I also like, though, like she's not afraid to read a long article. She'll put on her little detective hat and she'll read it. And if she doesn't understand something, she'll call her attorney or she'll call her accountant and she'll ask. And then she's not afraid on camera to poke the bear and ask little questions and get the topic going.
Yeah.
It's driving me nuts that no one is coming right out. And Garcelle skated on the line again last night. But why is nobody saying to Dorit, all right, we all think PK set up your burglary.
Right.
Everybody's talking about it. Are you hearing it? What's your reaction?
Yeah.
They're not addressing it. Where I think Sutton, at least with Kyle this season, was trying to say, is something going on with you? What's going on? She's trying to elicit, we're hearing about your marriage, Kyle. We're hearing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And I think that, I guess I just feel like Kyle made a great point. Like, yeah, I have shown a lot of my life, and I need this thing with my husband had just sort of started when we started filming. So I can't give you all the details. I can only tell you, yeah, we've had a hard time. I don't really know what that means. And to read also, we had a hard time. You know, he was in England a lot. He spent 2 weeks in a hotel with Boy George. Like, you know, she's not saying, we're having a lot of financial problems. And, you know, she's also not really saying what the problem is. And, you know, as a person in a marriage, you're a person in a marriage. Like, do I have to? Do I have to give you the details, or can I just say, it's been a hard time? Do I have to give you the details? That's kind of my thing with Kyle. Is like, she doesn't have to give them the details, especially when she doesn't really know it. And she sure as hell is not going to say, he lost my trust when 4 years ago I realized he had a shady business dealing that could affect our entire
Her
well-being in
income.
our family, you know?
I do think with Kyle, one thing I think she could have expanded on more that she didn't is her codependence. She did say
Mm,
last night she's been married her entire life.
yeah.
And in between her first marriage and then her marriage to Mauricio, she was engaged to a TV news anchor who was like 20 years older than her. So
Oh,
she
wow.
does go relationship to relationship to
Well,
relationship.
that's how their mother taught them, Jodi.
Yes, land that big guy with the big,
Yeah.
salary,
Yeah.
with the money, the big bank accounts. But I do think for the first time in Kyle's life, she's finally like, maybe I'm ready to stand on my own. And what will that take? And I've got all this anxiety. She's had a number of issues to be depressed about in the last
Hmm.
year. I do kind of wonder, perhaps she needed some medication to help her during this difficult year. Perhaps that also factored into why she chose not to drink,
Yep.
which is perfectly reasonable and understandable. I don't think there's any shame in any of that. If you need medication during a difficult time while you're depressed and grieving, whatever. But I do think she's finally maybe finding some self actualization that, like, okay, who am I? Who am I outside of caring for everybody in the nest? What do I want? What are my goals? And I do think, you know what it reminds me of? There was this great episode with Oprah years ago where Meredith Baxter Burney goes on. And she says to her, look, I've been married 3 times, and then now I'm divorced. And I look out the window one day and I see this lady out through the back window, and I kind of am watching her. And she tells about how she met this lady and ultimately starts a relationship. And I think for the first time in Kyle's life, she's realizing maybe I'm sexually fluid. Maybe here all along, I thought I was a heterosexual woman. And now all of a sudden I realize something in my life I never considered before. I
Right.
think that in 2024 is perhaps a storyline that would be really refreshing. Like, how does this, do some people know all their lives that they're heterosexual, and other people know they're homosexual. There are people who suddenly discover, hey, I'm fluid, but they don't discover it until they are in their mid 50s, like
Right.
Meredith Baxter Burney.
Yeah.
And maybe Kyle. I'm curious to see what she comes out with here. And I think maybe because she's codependent and tries to be the people pleaser
Hmm.
in her family with her sisters, and certainly around Mo, she said, we don't really talk about anything. We talk around things. We talk, we
Yeah.
avoid the
We never
conversation.
have we never have big fights. Nobody ever yells. We
Exactly.
just skirt around everything. Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe she's finally realizing, like, okay, I know I need to say this, but I don't have the skill set to say it. I've never had to do this. So
Hmm.
I kind of think it's really kind of fascinating. But then at the same time, while she's still not maybe there yet, I don't think it's right for her to criticize other people. Like Sutton said, look, I was realizing my ex-husband moving away, that was a big deal to me.
Yeah.
And we finally got to me that kind of came full circle last night with when she explained it, why it was such a big deal, and for her to stand up for herself.
Yeah.
And so I almost thought watching it, when Kyle heard that, I kind of felt like the way Kyle's face looked like, okay, I'm starting to get what you're saying now. But then later on, she rolled her eyes at Sutton again. And I'm like, okay, stop. She wants everybody to be either team Kyle or team Kathy. There's no in between. And I don't think that's fair to people. I think Dorit, quite honestly, at that reunion last year was just trying to say, well, just try to listen to her, try to meet halfway. And Kyle didn't want to hear it. And then, as Dorit says, Kyle will punish you.
But so will Kathy, and they learned that from their mom. And I
Yes.
think also Dorit was trying to get in on the Kathy Kyle thing because she can see as a social climber, the higher rung is always going to be Kathy.
Absolutely.
And and that's why Kyle's
Absolutely.
like, you're not even friends with her like that. Like, this is my sister. And God, I feel like enough attention wasn't given to that scene with Kim Richards, with all her struggles, and Kyle in the kitchen when they had that real conversation, and Kim just started bawling, crying, and was like, I love mom. Like, it's so hard for them because I think Kim has been in such deep recovery and therapy and everything to be like, to say to Kyle, like, I really love mom, but she knows that she's so fucked up because of her mom. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? So it's
Here's the
really
thing.
hard to match up those two things, I think, for
They've
those
put
girls.
their mother on a pedestal and they
Right.
do love their mother, but their mother was flawed. And
Yeah.
now they're starting to realize, okay, her flaws, it's rolled downhill. And now we're the next generation. And are we repeating these
Right.
same flaws to our children? And it seems like all the nieces and nephews, especially all those girls between Kathy and Kyle, they're all, and Kim, they're all very close. They're almost more like sisters than cousins. And
Yes.
it almost seems like that generation has broken the cycle. Like, okay, we see what our moms are and how somebody's always fighting with somebody else. And it's always two against one. And
Hmm.
it's just the players alternate between who's in alliance and who's on the outside.
Right.
But yeah, I do think at least Kim and maybe even a little bit Kyle is starting to realize the mother was a piece of work.
Yeah.
Was a piece of work. And you know what else was in that scene with Kim that hasn't gotten enough attention is Kim said to Kyle, so who are you bringing to the wedding? And this is before we knew about separation
And
and
Morgan
problems.
and Morgan was there.
And Morgan was there. Exactly. So,
But so was
no,
Mauricio. So, I mean,
yes,
how does that work? I
that's
mean,
interesting. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? The thing about Kyle and Morgan, I don't care if she's heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, whatever. To me, it's the age factor.
me
I
too.
can't
Me
get
too.
over that.
That's what I've said a million times. I don't
I mean,
care. If she's a life
no.
lesbian, if she's fluid, if she stays with Mo, if she has Morgan of a sudden, I don't care. All of that is her business and her right. But it is the age difference that is like, wow, that's like,
I
and
mean,
maybe
can you
Morgan's an old soul and
imagine?
all that, but that's like younger than your kid. That's to me,
Exactly. Like if your son, we both have sons about the same age. When
yeah,
our sons are like in their late 20s, would we date a guy younger than our sons? I wouldn't even consider it.
no, I don't get
I
it.
think that would be weird. That to me is the strangest thing that she is potentially in a relationship and as chummy as she is. I mean, I think we can say chummy and be covered there because of all the pictures and the
Yeah,
hip rubbing and everything.
right.
To be that chummy with someone younger than my children, I think I just find it odd. I really do.
I think that's a bigger sticking point for me than you're what I mean. Also, if she was having a relationship and she's in her mid-50s, she's having a relationship with a guy that's like 23, same thing. I'd be like, what's up here?
Yeah, I think that's odd because how can you really, do you really connect on an intellectual level? Again, I go back to what kind of conversations are you having? Because if you're
Same
not
with
really
men and
having,
women. Same with
yes,
men and women with the older man and the younger woman. I'm always like, this guy is my age and dating a girl that is my daughter's age. What?
well,
What?
how do you have any references, like even social references? Like I
Right.
remember, mentioning different musicians to my kids that they had never heard of that were like huge in the 80s.
Yes.
Well, it'd
Yes.
be the same thing. Like, how do you relate, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So I'm curious what's going to come up on episode 3
Me
of the
too.
reunion, and especially what Kathy brings. And I thought when Kathy said, just be confident,
Yeah.
and, go ahead, don't be afraid. I'm like, okay, are we going to hear it? Are we going to hear it?
We're teased to believe we're going to hear it because Kyle's doing that. Him and Ann Holland, she's doing that like nervous smile that when
Mhm.
somebody asks you about somebody that you like and you kind of do that like you're smiling because you're like a little like shy about it. She seems to be doing that. Um, okay, let's go through what we talk about in the reunion. Okay,
Okay.
after 20 minutes of us just blah 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 blah, blah but that's what we do here. So the reunion starts off with Dorit and Kyle and the whole Kathy of it all, like you didn't take my side. And then as Dorit's like, well, da da da, Garcelle says, do you ever just say I was wrong? Well, Garcelle, and then we get on that. So then we talk about Kyle's 1.5 years of sobriety. And she says she did not have a problem at all, but it has really changed her. And it will. It changed your brain chemistry, everything.
Mm.
And Dorit says you changed your lifestyle and you don't drink. But I don't think Morgan is the reason you stopped drinking. Like Dorit more than once is trying very hard to bring Morgan into the conversation as if she's
Agree.
afraid Andy's not going to bring it up later.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Kyle goes, right. I
Dorit
didn't.
knows her job is on the line. So she's trying to have, and she is under fire this reunion. I mean,
Yep.
it has been Dorit centric, but to me, it's her swan song. People are over Dorit. They're
I
tired of the
agree.
lack of storyline. They're irritated. She's so loquacious and just hammers on and on and on. It's like belabors the point. Get to the point, Dorit.
I
And
know.
I think they're over her.
I think
I
they're
think they're
over it.
over her.
My
Yeah.
understanding was she was 2 hours late when they were trying to film this.
That
Everyone
would
was
tick me
ready.
off.
I think
Oh,
that's why Andy is poking at her, like, "Go faster. We're already running late. It's your fault,"
yes,
you know?
exactly. And the
So,
little Red Riding Hood
I
outfit,
mean,
just come
what?
on.
What's
Come on.
happening?
Come on. I
So,
know.
Andy asked Garcelle, do you think that all you guys are being, like, unsupportive of Kyle's journey? And Erica goes, we've been joking, and honestly, I would not be joking at all if I thought Kyle had an addiction issue or a real drinking problem. We're just joking, like, mocktails, really, but I mean, Erica's not really drinking either. My God, look at that body. You couldn't have had a bit of drink in there. Um, so Dorit says, well, it's a big lifestyle shift because of the working out and the not drinking and the tattoos. And Kyle's like, well, I've worked out since I was 13. And then we come into it because I had two stick thin sisters and I was curvy. So again, that mom thing comes in like, Kyle, you got to be better. You got to be thinner.
Mm-mm.
You're never going to get a husband because you're short. I mean, if somebody doesn't do a documentary on Big Kathy, like, what are we waiting
They're
for?
missing it.
They're
They're
missing it.
missing it. Absolutely.
God.
Absolutely.
So then Sutton gets into, I think you're being reckless, insinuating that I have this drinking problem and I push my food around. And she goes, well, you do. And Kyle says, well, but you have a lot of nerve for what you did at the week dinner. And we talk about how the two of them had a conversation and kind of decided not to discuss it. And then Sutton brought it to the table. And then this is where I thought Kyle made a very good point, and I know where you stand on Kyle. I got it. But Kyle says, you act like I did something to you instead of saying, hey, how are you? What's going on? Do you need a friend? And I never said you had a drinking problem. Those words never came out of my mouth. And Sutton goes, of course not, because you're very smart. And
I love that.
both of those things are very true. She never said it outright, but I do think Kyle made a great point. Like you saw at the end of the last episode of the season, Erica coming over and being like, "Hey, as a friend with all this stuff, like, what can I do to help you? And you don't have to stay in this marriage, you know." So I think all these things are both true. I think that Kyle is saying to Sutton, like, you never checked on me as a friend, but when she said that about the drinking, Sutton said, of course, you never said it. You let Dorit say it, and you never said it because you're very smart. That was a good
I
point, too.
I think two truths can be right at the same time. I do. And I think Kyle is right. Sutton didn't come to her and do what you said.
Yeah.
And Sutton does get, when she's got a problem, she puts the blinders on. We saw it last year. She was all worried about somebody getting in with inventory into the country for her store and totally disregarded Dorit's break-in that had
Trauma.
just
Yeah.
happened that morning.
Right.
So she does kind of she fails to be able to take the temperature of the room at crucial moments.
Socially
I've
awkward.
noticed that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, look at how that wonderful scene when they were in that church in Spain. I mean, I got tears in my eyes between those two when they
Yeah.
were sitting in that church and they were supporting each other. So I do think,
I mean, I
you
think
know,
Sutton could really understand a divorce from a very
yes,
rich man. Very
yes,
powerful. And lots of people have insinuated, because we don't know why Sutton got divorced. Some people have said, like, and he was living right down the street. Maybe they weren't really as divorced as we thought. And it was a financial decision for them to get divorced.
perhaps,
And that maybe that's another reason she's so sad he's moving.
maybe.
Um, but Kyle says, at the first episode of the season at the Eagle Woman, whatever the hell that was thing, that this is Eagle Woman because like, okay.
How do you say that with a straight face?
Um, that she said at the Eagle Woman thing, she said, I did say we have had a hard year, but I was just sort of coming to realize it myself. So I didn't have any details to give you. And Dorit's like, you didn't give us any detail. And Kyle says, what makes you think that you're entitled to what's going on in my bedroom? And Sutton goes, well, we all share our lives. And then Sutton said, then Kyle says, that's not true. We don't all share our lives. Kyle says, now this is what I want you to hear. Kyle says, I've been on this show for 13 years. She's an OG original cast member. I've had my 2-year-old's birthday party on here who's now applying to college. I have seen kids learn how to drive. I've had kids go to college, graduate college, come home from college. I've had a kid be engaged. I've had rumors about my marriage. I've had 2 siblings on my show. My family has fallen apart more than once. So don't say I don't talk about my life. And then she goes, you bought a horse this season. You got a dating coach. Give me a break. Now, that wasn't nice, but when you listen to Kyle list out everything that she's done on the show, she has shared her life. Now, a lot of it is all positive, happy, superficial stuff, but her family has fallen apart more than once on camera.
There's no question she has been very transparent, especially with Kim, about calling Kim out on the alcoholism
Yep.
and about how she worried remember when Kim was with that gross guy that looked like that bull mastiff?
Yes. I was like, what was that dog he looked like?
Bull mastiff. Yeah,
Yes.
remember Brandy Glanville said you look like a bull mastiff. And
Yeah.
Paul
She was
Mastiff lost
Kim's
it
like,
in the
I met him
car.
by my mailbox. I met him by the mailbox. I'm like,
Yes,
oh my God.
no, but poor Kyle, she was going through it there. And then the whole, you stole my house. And we learned all about the finances of the Palm Springs house. And then we saw transparency too, to some extent, with Kathy Hilton and how Kathy got mad at Kyle for that American Woman show that Kyle produced and how it was loosely based on her or influenced by her mom. And, the drama that happened.
And then Kathy was like, I'm just not even going to talk to you. And Kyle's like, you didn't even watch the show to
Right.
see that it was not based on mom. It was just based in that era. Because I don't think Big Kathy took the kids to Studio 54. But like Drew Barrymore's mom did. Like it was based in that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that part she absolutely has been transparent with. I think really and I think too, when she said, I think it was on episode or at the end of the season finale, she said, we presented a fairy tale to my girls and I bought into the fairy tale. And I think that was kind of clicking for Kyle. Kind of like, yeah, I bought in that we had this fairy tale, and really, did we? If we weren't talking, did we really have a fairy tale?
And it's also like you can have the cars and the money and get whatever bag you want and buy this house and do that. And all of that is great. And that's a great way to live. And if you don't really care about being close to your partner because you're just living your life and you've got your friends and your kids and whatever, and maybe a business, which she doesn't really have, then fine. And that's the agreement. Great. But I think she didn't want that. She wants to also have that close relationship with her husband where they're building these things together. But he seems to be building this all on his own. And then she just signs things and finds out he's got this, $40 million lawsuit because he was shady with the business deal. And then she's like, what the hell? I've been here this whole time and now you're doing this,
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So Kyle says
and
to
I
Sutton,
think,
yeah, go ahead.
I also think seeing what happened to Erica in the past couple of years, Kyle must have been panicked. And we all know Kyle has anxiety. Can you imagine with this lawsuit coming down and she's thinking, oh my gosh, here's what could potentially be my future.
Yeah.
If they aired all this about Erica, I got to make sure they don't talk about this for me. I got to make
Hmm.
sure there's another storyline and another narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was interesting that Kyle says to Sutton, she goes, okay, you can't talk about Christian. And Sutton goes, he's a very, very powerful man. And she goes, okay, great. She goes, you can't talk Magic Mike. We can't talk about Lake Tahoe. But you want me to spill everything about my marriage. And Sutton goes, we're all just curious. You've got the tattoos and you're working out. And Kyle says, so what? And I agree. So what if she's working out? And so what if she got some tattoos? Like, who, why does anybody, they keep mentioning the tattoos. Like, who gives a shit? I have 2 tattoos. Like, who cares if somebody has tattoos? It's not like she's going up her neck and shit like Morgan. Like, then you're really talking about an
I know.
obsession,
When Clash gets a sleeve, that's when we worry.
That's when we worry, right?
Yes, exactly.
This podcast is sponsored by Little Spoon. Let Little Spoon eliminate mealtime drama for you and your family. Look, we're all a fan of reality TV drama, right? Like Amy and Johnny, if they're going to have kids in a couple of years, well, Little Spoon will be great for them because Johnny is really trying to save money. Little Spoon has healthy meals and snacks that your kid will love for every eating stage. They have the little baby blends. They have the biteables, which is transitioning, to the finger food. They've got the plates for your big kids. Oh, the smoothies, the lunchers, the snacks. My little nephew, James, tried all of these things. He loved the chicken dunkers. He loved this purple carrot acai bowl. Yeah. And a smoothie. You guys, it's just a wide variety of junk-free, better-for-you alternatives for your kids. Like I said, sweet baby James tried these things and was a fan. A fan. He loves the dunkers. Okay. Also, I got to mention, it comes right to your door. It's so flexible, so easy. You can change it up every week. It comes to your door. You pop it in the fridge. You pop it in the freezer. And then when your kids needs a snack, or if it's that witching hour and you've really got to make a meal fast, boom, you pull it right out. So simplify your kiddos' mealtime with 30% off your first order. You're going to go to littlespoon.com/pinkshade, enter our code pinkshade at checkout to get 30% off your first Little Spoon order. Again, that is littlespoon.com/pinkshade, enter code pinkshade. You're going to get 30% off your first Little Spoon order. Do it. You guys, I love my meal kits. Being able to have a delicious meal without the long prep and cook time is what drew me to Home Chef over the other guys. Their meals are effortless, even for somebody like me. I'm not making it to Top Chef anytime soon. My kitchen's more like Hell's Kitchen. I'm always trying to get everybody fed. People are running in and out on different schedules, and I'm trying to make sure everybody has a healthy meal once a day. Home Chef provides fresh ingredients and chef-designed recipes conveniently delivered to your door. It comes in that refrigerated box. You throw it right in the fridge, and then when you're ready, you pull it out and make it. I prefer the classic meal kits where they bring you the pre-portioned ingredients and the easy instructions. That's what I like, but they also have these speedy recipes that are ready in less than 30 minutes. They have oven-ready kits. You just pop it in the oven, and then it's ready. They've got you covered no matter what you like to do. They have over 30 options a week, and they serve a variety of dietary needs. So you don't have to worry what to make ahead of time and, is it going to fit with what I'm trying to do? Not only is it convenient, it's economical too. Home Chef customers will save an average of $86 a month. You guys, that's a lot of money. So for a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 18 free meals plus free shipping on your first box and free dessert for life. What? That's homechef.com/pinkshade. You guys, free dessert for life? Homechef.com/pinkshade for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. Okay? Homechef.com/pinkshade. You must be an active subscriber to receive the free dessert. Do it and let me know what you ordered. So Kyle says, you came into this season just to come after me. So just having a horse and having a cashmere line's not enough. Oh, we can't talk about the horse either, and all that. So Crystal says, excuse me, it was actually Dorit who was insinuating Sutton had the drinking problem. And it was when Dorit said,
she started it. She was the match that started that fire.
When she said she puts vodka in her coffee in the morning, I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's not
Those
cool.
are fighting words. Those are fighting words, Mary Payne.
And it's so funny. So Dorit repeats the question, did I insinuate? And Garcelle goes, When somebody repeats the question, that's a stalling tactic.
It is. I can tell you that from 22 years in the FBI. It's like, okay, find your
Okay, I got
answer.
it.
The
Yeah.
merry-go-round in your head.
Well, let me repeat it. And Dorit says, I mean, I don't have any evidence that you have a drinking problem. I'm like, I don't know. And Sutton goes, I don't know if you have a drinking problem either. Carcass out. How many carcasses
That
on
was
the
a good
floor at
line.
night? I don't know. I was like, how many carcasses on the floor at night? Like she's just throwing limes around her house. Oh
That
my
was
God.
a good line.
That
That
was
was a good line.
very funny. She was prepared. Then we see the Denise stuff, like watch the show. She was on Watch What Happens Live last night. I didn't get to watch the whole episode because I was like, by that point, it was like 12 something. But she did say that, yes, she did have a margarita before she left the house. And then she got there and she had a drink, but she said she was on a medication. She didn't say what. She was on a medication because she had been sick. And she said, and I realized right when I got there and I had a drink that I wasn't right. Something was wrong.
Clearly.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay.
Clearly. Yeah.
I don't think you had one margarita unless it was a triple to get that.
I think there were a few shots in that margarita.
So regarding Dorit and PK, Erica and the whole, like the next couple to get divorced, and the showman
Yes.
part of it and all that. And then Dorit, we see Dorit's imitation of Erica in her confessional. And Erica goes, I mean, that was pretty good.
It
And
was good.
And Dorit goes, yeah, it was good. And then we see all this stuff about PK saying he doesn't really consider her having PTSD. She's just being obnoxious. Now, I think two things are going on here. I think he's British and you just stiff up her lip and keep it pushing. That's first thing. And then, of course, the other theory is he had something to do with it and he knew she was never going to get killed. So just move on.
Move on, honey. Shut up. Because the more you keep talking about this, the more insurance investigators might come looking at me that maybe I committed insurance fraud. So
Right.
Shut up. But he can't say that to her because she truly was terrified. But that's what makes me so frustrated watching this, because clearly it's out there that people are saying this, that she has to know. I want someone, and Garcelle should take one for the team here and say, all right, what I'm insinuating here, I know you had a gun to your head. I don't doubt there was a robbery. I want to know, do you think your husband was behind it?
What are your thoughts as a person in this law field? What does your law enforcement background tell you about that Dorit situation?
Motive means an opportunity. That's what you got to look at. Do they have a motive? Yes, he's a $1 million in tax debt, from what I understand, allegedly. Mm-hmm. So there's a motive there. Does he have the means?
By the way, she came home from London one day early with the kids.
Early, yes.
But if that was the case, and he knew obviously they were leaving one day early, wouldn't he have told whoever he set this up with?
Possibly. But yet on the other hand, if you know they're not going to get hurt, then does it make it look more authentic?
And he knows
it's
that the kids
sick.
sleep
That's sick.
with her. Like when the husband's not there, the kids sleep with her. So he did know if those kids could have been in the bed with her.
I think Garcelle made a very good point about the phone being left at the gate. Okay. Garcelle's like, look, that just doesn't happen. You don't just say, that's the only way I'll be able to get a hold of my husband. True criminals don't care. They don't
Andy
care.
was like, there's a tracker on the phone.
There's
so maybe
a tracker there. But however, most criminals would rip that SIM card out of the phone and take the phone and then resell the phone.
Just turn the phone completely off and take it.
Yeah, and take it. Exactly. So that did, to me, smell fishy. Absolutely. I do think so. I also think the fact that whole story about her going to Marshall's with 10 grand in her purse. First of all,
she could buy gift cards?
Let me tell you something.
With 10 grand?
When you take a 10 grand out of a bank, that triggers a SAR, a suspicious activity report. 9,999 won't. 10,000 will. She had $10,000. I just find that odd. And then she goes to Marshall's. Does anybody believe Dorit shops at a Marshall's?
Dorit went to Marshall's to buy gift cards, is what she was saying. But why do you need cash for that?
Box cards. Did she mean like Christmas cards to put the cash in the card?
She kept saying like, box cards, and I was
what's a box card?
So maybe that's what. Okay, now that you're saying, because I was like, maybe Jody will
Like
know
a
what that
box of
means.
cards.
Okay, well, just swing by CVS and get a
I
box
was
of
gonna
cards.
say, or come on, you don't have stationery? I don't buy that. You
I
don't
don't.
have you don't have stationery printed up for Christmas, Dorit, with all you're running to Marshalls for the $6.99 box of cards to put $10,000 worth of gifts in? I don't believe it. I don't
For their
buy that.
staff. What kind of staff do they have? And they're giving, even if it's only 5 people and they're giving a $2,000 each. What is it? It's a nanny. It is a housekeeper. They don't have that kind
Maybe
of
the
staff.
kids' teachers, because I know the kids are homeschooled. So maybe that. But still,
It's a lot of money.
10,000, I mean, you just leave it there in your cart while you're walking around and looking. I just don't believe that, especially when you've been a victim of crime.
It's far fetched.
It is. It
It's far
really
fetched.
is. And I want to know how much was the bag, because if it was an Hermes bag, that could be a really good insurance claim too.
It's interesting, right? Well, she looked in the bag. So she looked in the bag and the money was gone. So did somebody pull her whole wallet out? Because they've got the video, blah, blah, blah. The person was following them. You know, I don't know. Like, a while back, I remember our babysitter. I mean, this woman now has 3 children of her own. So it was a very long time ago. Our babysitter took the kids to the park or something. When she came back, somebody had opened up her trunk and stolen her purse and stuff out of it. And she was, like so upset about it because they were just at a nice park in the middle of the day. And she said, honestly, it wasn't the lipstick or the whatever. She goes, literally, my purse and my wallet were worth more than what was in it. She was like, she had a nice, like a Coach bag or something, not even like thousands and thousands of dollars. But she was like, that was so upsetting because, like, I love that purse. So
Yes,
you're right. Like, if they lifted the entire wallet, the wallet itself could have been worth more than what was in it.
exactly.
If
Exactly.
we're to believe Dorita's whatever. So when she starts to talk, because he's asking her, you dyed your hair brown. You're not wearing as many logos. I was like, did anybody see her at the white party? She had 12 Chanel ribbons in her hair. Like, we get it. Um, I didn't see any less logos on Dorit, but they're asking her, are you in a budget? And she was like, what do you mean to PK put me on a budget? No. And as she starts to talk, Andy starts to yawn. She's like, don't you dare. And we flash back to every year when she's talking. And I'm a yawner too. Like, it's well known on this podcast. We have merch that says live, laugh, yawn because I yawn all the time. I'm a yawner, so I get it. I yawn when my own self is talking. Like, I get bored of myself. But so I get the yawning. But when she's like, don't you dare. I think he's like, how about you don't dare be 2 hours late and talk for 30 minutes when I've asked you
Exactly.
to give me bullet points, you
Had we
know?
started on time, maybe I wouldn't be yawning.
Maybe I wouldn't be yawning. So then
Yes.
Garcelle, we see the shade that she said, like, I never noticed anybody's jewelry. I don't know about Kyle's new ring. The only time I noticed jewelry is that after Dorit's robbery, she still had all of hers.
That was a killer line. It
That
really
was
was.
killer. That was a killer line. And then, we talk about the things that were off, like the phone, etc. Um, then we talk about Kyle never reading paperwork. And Andy says, do you know my friend Teresa Judice?
Or
And
Erica sitting right next to you.
I mean, Erica goes, it's okay to trust your partner. And she's like, never mind, don't listen to me. And I think Sutton, like you're saying, is a really good example of, I will sit down and read these documents. You are not going to take my money, you
That's
know?
right. Sutton put on her cat sweater and her cute little cheater glasses, and she read it.
And she
She
reads
read, yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Or she hires her own lawyer to read it for her on
exactly.
her
And then
behalf.
explain it to her. Right,
Yeah.
right. Which is
Um,
smart. All women should read.
I mean, listen, I think, when we think about, like, when you're like refinance your mortgage or something, or like if you're renting an apartment, anything that's like 12 pages and the person just tells you this page says this. Okay. This page says this. Okay. Yesterday I just had to go to the doctor for this nerve ablation, and it's 6 pages of, you agree to this anesthesia, and, like, if you die, we're not responsible, all that. You're just like, yep, 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 and you sign it. But I don't read
Right.
every word. So I understand what Kyle is saying, but I think that if it's their own personal properties, like if they're buying an Aspen house or whatever, you're just signing mortgage papers. But if it's something with his business and she's co-signing it, like a Teresa situation, she has enough money to get her from this show to get her own lawyer to read this.
Yes, I agree.
And I
I
thought that
agree.
was very telling when they talked about that in the Sprinter van. I guess were they in Tahoe when they talked about that? I guess, or wherever maybe they were in Vegas
Or
when she
Spain. They were in
was Spain,
Spain.
and she was like, "I never read anything."
And here's another thing, Mary Payne. Don't forget, Kyle is a producer.
Mm-hmm.
What she says and what she doesn't say are equally important, because if she
Okay.
wants to
Yeah.
say something, she says it. And so I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it's just a fluke that was magically said. I just sign anything. I think at that time that lawsuit was still going on, and she wanted it to be like, hey, I'm innocent in all of this. I was naive. I trusted my husband. I think she's very crafty about what she will not talk about and what she deliberately drops.
And I don't think she'll be like Teresa and I just stand by my man. I
No.
think if it push comes to shove, she'll be like, I signed all this stuff and he told me this. Because Teresa was very much like, I'll stand by my man, and if I signed it, I signed it, and it's my fault. I don't think Kyle will go that route.
Don't you think this season that Kyle, there's an underlining animosity with Mo. She is over him. She was angry. There was an underlining anger towards
Mm-hmm.
him. And whether it's the lawsuit, whether it's cheating, whether it's a combination of everything, him being gone,
Mm-hmm. All of it.
something pushed it over the top. And she's like, done. Line in the sand, done. I'm
She
over
just
you.
once you're once you're over it, you're over it, and
Yes.
just smiling and being cute is not
Is
going to
not
be
going
enough.
to happen.
Uh-uh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The love bean, the love has gone out of the bean.
When he said like, I just don't think you should get any more tattoos. I forbid you. I'd be like, oh, you want to watch me? I'm about to get one down my whole side. You
Exactly.
know?
She responded like, my body, my choice. You're not going to tell me anything, pal.
Oh my God. And then she was like, maybe if we were together more, you'd know what tattoos I had. I was like,
Well, that
ooh,
was telling, wasn't that?
slam.
Yeah.
Um, so we go back to Dorit and the PK stuff about separation. Now, if she was smart and she wants another season, she would play this out. But she's like, after they wrapped, things did get worse. Boy George was in town for 2 weeks and PK stayed with him at the hotel. And Andy was like, so you were living separate lives? And she goes, no, Andy, it wasn't like he moved everything. And, but he was at the hotel. And Andy goes, okay, semantics. And she goes, no, Andy, words have weight. I loved it. Garcelle looked at Crystal and goes, oh, words have
Words
weight.
have weight.
Look at the shit she said about us.
Yeah, hypocrite.
Like no one here is educated but me. Well, don't. Okay.
Oh, that was another one. Oh,
I was like, Andy went to college. Crystal went to college. Sutton went to college. Anne Marie obviously went to college.
yeah.
What do you mean you're the only one here that went to college?
I mean, just grab the shovel and keep digging that hole.
Shut
At
up.
that point, I know. I know.
Ugh.
She is so done. She's done. I mean, unless she comes out at the end of episode 3 and says, I may have proof that PK was behind the burglary. That's the only thing that could
Or
save
she
her.
was like, I know that Kyle's a lesbian because we had a 3-way with Morgan. I mean,
Exactly. Or I slept with Mo. That's what this is about. Something like that. Then they'd bring her back. But other than that, she's done. She's done.
And Andy says, so how are things now? And she goes, Andy, they're better than ever. And everybody just looks at each other. And she says, look, he was drinking a lot. He's a drinker. So he gave up drinking. It's been 49 days where he hasn't had a drink. So things are really good. They're as good as they possibly can be. And everybody's looking around like, after 49 days. Okay. So now we're going back and forth with Dorit and Kyle's friendship. And, Kyle's like, I was in a very lonely place. It was a terrible time for me, with her best friend committing suicide. I mean, we can say her best friend died, but her best friend committed suicide, which is, if you've ever known anybody that did that, it is such a blow.
Trauma.
You cannot understand the trauma that
Especially
it leaves
if
behind.
you don't see the signs beforehand.
If you have no idea.
Some people are very good at hiding
Yes.
their pain. They smile. They have a smile from ear to ear hours before. You would have no idea with some people.
Yeah. Terrible. And Dorit goes, well, I know you weren't alone because I could see what you were doing on Instagram. And Kyle goes, so you're saying I wasn't struggling because I wasn't sitting alone, like crying in a dark room? And Dorit says, no, you were just, here she comes again. She's trying to bring it up. She goes, you were just keeping a very close-knit circle of friends. And Kyle goes, here's the thing. I was going through something terrible, many things terrible in my life. I was keeping a brave face for my children. But the truth is, I've been married my entire adult life, and I'm having to like really look at what this means for me. So Andy says, after this, reunion, do you guys feel any better about your friendship? And Kyle goes, yeah, I do. And Dorit goes, I don't. And I think we should sit down and have another conversation. I was like, that's not going to help. You should have said that you and PK were still separated. That's not going to help you get another season. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, quite frankly, Kyle feels like, yeah, I just told you I was with my close friends, my inner circle.
Mhm.
We're friends. I care about you, but you're not part of the inner crowd. And Dorit doesn't get it.
Mm-mm. She doesn't. And Dorit herself has, by doing all of this on the show, has blown it with her friendship with Kyle, because she's proving just what Kyle said. You're going with what the audience wants, and you're not considering me as a friend.
Exactly.
So they start to like wrap up this segment, and Andy says to Dorit, he goes, well, you didn't do bullet points, but we got it all out. Okay, let's go first.
Like pain. The pain is over.
So now we get the Erica Jane thing about, she gave up being mean to people who are fighting for Lent. But, then we see her with, because Denise kind of came at her, and she let it go because she could tell Denise was all fucked up. But then when they had that second party, the taco night or whatever it was, and she's like, and Denise is, meh, meh, meh. And that's when she goes, well, who's more profitable on OnlyFans, you or your daughter? And Erica goes, look, I've worked very hard to change my mind and my body, but if you fuck with me, I'll take you to the grave. And that's just who I am. And you know what? Not hating it.
I agree. I agree. It's like, okay, you know what, Denise, enough. This is 4 years old, this conversation. And now you're on OnlyFans, your daughter's on OnlyFans. I mean, the air's out of the balloon.
Don't judge me.
Yeah, exactly.
She gets complimented on her comeback and her Bet It All on Blonde residency and all that. And I have to tell you the funniest thing, total sidebar. So I texted Ronnie Karam of Watch What Happens this morning, and I said, I am going to save up my podcast listening for the weekend because I know you guys are going to cover this Bet It All on Blonde. I cannot wait to hear you guys imitate Mikey. And he's like crying about Erica not simulating orgasms on the stage enough. And I go, I can't wait, because they do the funniest Mikey Minden ever. And he's like, yes, bitch, and I was like, I can't wait. And Ronnie goes, oh no, I think we're not going to cover it. I said, Ronnie, please don't ruin my weekend. Please. You guys have got to do it. And he was writing me back like, Mikey literally is crying over Erica not having enough energy. I go, by the way, last time she did this show, she was mid-40s. She's 52. Give her a break. She's menopausal.
Yes.
Give her a break.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's tough. It's tough.
I don't care how skinny you are. It's rough.
Yes, you got to move. And joints don't care if you're on Ozempic, okay? No. Your knees and your back and your hips. Yeah, allegedly. Good catch. Yeah, it's hard, and dancing's hard, getting your leg up over your
I was like, come on now. Come on, Mikey. Yeah. Come on. Don't cry over it. So I will say on that Bet It on Blonde, did you notice when they, Mikey was talking about it around the corner, and she came around and she was like, look, I'm sorry. Like basically I'm filming the Housewives. I'm filming this show that we're currently doing right here that we're doing with the cameraman.
Right.
Plus I'm, and she goes, did you hear her say, I'm in this deal with Shed and I can't help it that I'm so busy. She meant Shed Media. I rewound it twice because
I didn't catch that.
Because did she say, I'm in this deal and I should? But no, I rewound it. This is one of those things where like my husband kept coming in the kitchen and like doing the ice maker. And I was like, damn it, I have to press pause. And then my kid would come in the room and be like, Mom, for tomorrow, do we have any leftovers I could take from? Pause, damn it. Quit talking. So I kept trying to rewind it to here, but she did say, I'm in this deal with Shed. So she meant like, I'm on the Housewives and I'm doing this Bet It All on Blonde documentary. So like, yeah, I'm overstretched. I'm in a deal with Shed. Fascinating.
That is.
Yeah.
That is.
That they kept it in too. So then we see Andy ask Erica about that old guy that she was spotted with in Vegas that looked like a real mobster. She says, he's my private lawyer. And then again, he goes,
that's her sugar daddy.
He goes, oh, so he's not like a sugar daddy. She goes, he's my private lawyer. She said private lawyer for the second time. Everybody's like, Like private dancer? Like, what do you mean private lawyer? What does private lawyer mean? Why not just he's my lawyer? Hmm. Um, and that's the only friend she's retained from her Tom Girardi days. We talk about her lack of empathy, for the victims, and she says, legally, I was told to shut up, and others, didn't appreciate the way I acted, but legally, I had to do what I had to do. I can't say anything publicly. Well, she said a lot of shit publicly, like victims, widows, orphans. Like she played that all wrong. We can all agree with that. So Andy says, let's talk about when you met with the victims. And she says, it was important for me to meet with them and they could see me as a person, as also a part of a victim. And he said, did you learn anything from it? She goes, yeah, I learned that one of my paychecks was sitting in a client trust fund. And I didn't know that. And I can't talk any more about it. Like I can't say anything else because the trial's about to happen and maybe there'll be answers.
Well, let me tell you what,
What are your
I will be
thoughts?
watching that trial for that to see if that actually does come out in evidence.
Answers. We have to be all be
Yes.
watching Andy Baker.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And she'll do the best job at that. She is fantastic.
Love her. And then they talk about Tom was found competent under the law to aid in his own defense. Now, I would recommend everybody listening to the Bravo docket. I think they did a 2-part series about the competency aspect of it, like what you actually have to prove for competency versus if he is really competent.
Absolutely. Those girls are excellent too.
And they had a competency lawyer come on who talked about conservatorships and all these things because he does have a conservatorship. But it's a matter of, she said, it's so extensive, this process to prove competency. They put things in there to trick, right? Like to trick. So you can't just fake it the whole time that you're
Right.
not well, because they put things in to trick you and stuff. And so if he's found competent under the law, that was an extensive process. And Crystal says, my dad has Alzheimer's. And, the life expectancy of somebody who has what he says he has is 9 years. So at this rate, he would be very progressed. And it just seems
Exactly.
strange to me because it's not the same person that we met 4 years ago. So if from 4 years ago to now, and it's what you said, it would be very progressed at this point. Like there's no way he would be found competent. And Erica says, Crystal, if you're saying he's faking it, just say that. Crystal goes, it's just really surprising to me. And then once they like, okay, we're going to take a break and the cameras go down, Crystal and Garcia said, well, somebody's lying. And Crystal goes, yeah, it's her.
Yes, the math isn't mathing, as they say. I think
I think he could be faking. I think he could be faking it to her too.
Well, that's what I think. I think so as well. And I think, it would behoove him to do that because here Erica is going on all these reunions the last couple of years. He's not competent when I talk to him. And then his lawyers can play that tape in court.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
she says he thinks he's still a lawyer, but he's in a memory care unit. So even she's like, huh?
Yeah.
Then we see this Sutton segment with name them. And the Sutton low blow, that was a very low blow when she said, you already lost 2 sisters. You want to lose a third.
Agree. That wrong.
Wasn't nice. Then we see the Magic Mike, and she wore the pants. She had the dollar bills, and when why was she so upset? And she goes, I did overreact. I did, but I didn't like the simulation of cunnilingus. And I got to tell you something. Maybe it's a Southern sensibility thing, but I didn't like that either. I don't mind if you get on the stage and you're going to be silly, but I don't need to see that. Like, okay.
I agree.
So she said, I was really going through something. My ex was moving to London and he just flat out told me, I'm moving to London and I'm taking James and you're going too. And she said, and Andy goes, but you're not married to him. Like, you don't have to do that. And she goes, I'm trained. He had a hold on me and he could tell me what to do, but it's not now. It was huge for me to assert myself against him. And he understood that I said, James and I are staying here. And that just increases her cost, her money. And she says, and Kyle, I have to say, I take offense to just saying I just have cashmere and a horse because I do have a store that's been open 4.5 years and a new business that is big. And Kyle says, right. But you weren't talking about your personal life a lot. Like, we don't know about that stuff with the Uber driver because she's like, he is a personal driver. And Andy goes, well, we found out you got $300,000 a month. And she goes, thank you for that. He goes, well, you're the one that said it. Like he was like, you're not going to blame me. You're the one that said it. And she goes, okay. And Anna Marie goes, I just come from a world. Oh, Anna Marie's here. I forgot.
Exactly. It's like, oh, somebody better ask her a question so that we
Yes.
talk to her this
Yeah.
episode.
She says, I just come from a world where you don't talk about that. I have some very, very, very wealthy and very famous friends, and you just don't talk about it. Who do you think on this couch doesn't have very, very wealthy or famous friends?
I know, exactly.
You're like,
exactly.
oh, are you kidding me?
That was so gross.
We're like, okay, hush. And then we see that Kyle said on an Amazon Live. These Amazon Lives are where people say stuff all the time. I've never watched one in my life.
Well, she's dropping Amazon Lives every day too, Kyle.
I've never even watched it. I do follow this girl on Instagram. It's Meredith Hudkins, Hudkins. I'm not getting anything from it. I just follow her on Instagram. And she posts the most amazing stuff that she finds on Amazon. And then you just like right below it, like whatever the code is. And then she sends it to your Instagram DM and you click it and then you can find all the deals. I'm just like, she found this stuff on the Amazon. Wow.
I'm telling you,
I should be watching these lives.
It's like, why even go shopping anymore when you can just go to Amazon?
I know, it's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. I did tell my husband the other day, because I'm planning this trip out to LA, I'm like, lots of boxes will be coming. Lots. From lots of places. They will be coming and you will be seeing it reflected in the bank account. Relax. I don't want to hear the comments about the boxes. I don't want to hear the comment about the money, because 98% of it will go back. It won't fit. It won't be cute. I won't like it. I'm just trying to curate like 6 good outfits. So I don't want to hear about it. I love a return. I love a return. I love to print out a return. I love to drop it at the UPS store. It's the same as like going to the mall to me. I love to get it all in my bedroom, try it on, get my returns and do it.
You're just trying to prevent box anxiety.
He's just like, what? I go,
how much did this cost? How much did, oh yeah.
I just saw the account you did this. I know. But guess what? All that money will go right back in. So just relax. I just like gave him a warning. So like yesterday, a little tiny thing came, not even big. And he goes, what's that? I go, didn't we just have this conversation yesterday? He goes, we didn't have a conversation. You told me. I go, I'm telling you again. I don't want to hear it. It's going to go on for about a week and then it will be over. It's like, okay. So Amazon. So, Amazon Live, she said she's taking a break from Sutton because of what Sutton was saying in the confessionals. And Kyle says, how do you expect me to Sutton? How do you expect me to behave when you came after me on camera when my kids were upstairs? And then she's like lighting up that joint that Kyle said. I was like, what was that all about? That was weird.
That was weird. That was odd.
That was very weird. So you know your house is going to smell like weed?
Yeah, I wouldn't like that. I would not like that in my house. No. It gets in your draperies and in your carpeting. Gross.
So then we see the clip of Teddy on Watch What Happens Live saying Sutton has vodka in her purse 24/7. And Kyle just sort of laughed and didn't take up for her. And then they're like, was Teddy doing Kyle's dirty work? And Kyle says, you know what? To Sutton, she goes, I have stayed quiet when there are things I could have said and I did not. So how about that?
Oh, don't you want to know what that is?
Yeah, I do.
Exactly.
I do. And Sutton says, well, you insinuated I have a drinking problem, that I made up my foot problem, that I have anorexia, and I take pills. You have been relentless mean to me. And as Dorit would say, watch the show. And that is where we end it.
It was a good episode, I thought.
Yeah. It's not going to be as good as next week, but.
Oh, next week. Must-see TV.
Kathy Hilton. Andy asked Kyle, do you talk divorce? Because they're separated now. Do you talk divorce? And she cries and she nods. Mm-hmm. Then again, we don't know how they've cut this, if any of this answers are actually to the correct questions. And then he says, $1 million question. Is there anything going on between you and Morgan? And Dorit says, yeah, it looks like you guys are girlfriends. Now, Erica does like a little smile, like, and Kyle kind of fumbles her words. And then Kyle turns to Kathy and goes, I don't know. And that is like she's holding a smile in. And that's when Kathy says, don't be embarrassed. And she goes, no, I'm not. I'm just, So that's a good teaser for next week. And then we hear Andy say, Erica, You said some women are afraid of Kathy. Who's most afraid of her in the group? And Erica points at Kathy and goes, "You don't want to run crossways with this one." And then it seems Sutton has some sort of medical emergency. What do we know about that?
I heard she has some sort of blood pressure issue
Mm,
and that it's perhaps related to that.
mm. Because she
So
was shaking and maybe her
she
blood
was
sugar went
shaking,
off or
yeah,
something.
her blood sugar. And I had, when I was in college, a girl on my floor in my dorm, we were going to the showers, to take showers
Yeah.
before class, and she fainted right in the little changing area. And she
Yeah.
had low, like hypo, is it either hypo or hyperglycemia,
Yeah.
whichever one is the low blood sugar one.
Yeah.
And she fainted on me. And I was like, oh my gosh.
And
And
you're like in your
so
little towel
I'm
wrap with
like
with your
wrapping
bucket.
up and I'm like running out in the hall. I'm like, call 911. And, showers are all cement. So fortunately, I was able to catch her when she started fainting because otherwise she could have smacked her head on the cement and
Yeah.
really been hurt. But it's scary. So I'm sure that was very alarming
Yeah.
when that
Well, Anna Marie,
happened.
Anna Marie jumps up and they're like, "Thank God you're here."
Yeah,
Yes,
medical
you are.
people.
Nurse,
Right.
anesthetist, anesthesiologist, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Now, um, I was going to talk about Vanderpump and stuff, but let's just forget it. We talked enough about that. I do want to ask you now. I know you have an episode out today, Thursday, with Kate about Brian Koberger, but I haven't listened to it yet because I was writing notes all morning. So you tell me what's the latest with Brian Koberger.
Okay, we just had a hearing recently. Big ticket items here are number one, we still don't have a trial date. We
Mm,
will not have a trial date until at least May 14th. There is another hearing then to decide on change of venue. That means will the trial take place in Moscow or will it be moved to another county in Idaho?
It can't
Once
be in Moscow, out of Idaho. It just can't, right?
well, the judge said, I'm not saying I'm guaranteeing a change of venue. So it's really how the attorneys on both sides articulate their position. But
Okay.
then once that is decided, once the hearing takes place on May 14th, the judge will either rule that day or he'll say, give me a few days. I want to think about this and then I'll write my ruling on this. But then after that, once venue is decided, they will have a hearing to set a trial date, and then we will know when the trial will occur. I'm anticipating most likely summer of 2025. The judge said he's still hanging on to hope that they could have it in March of 2025, but Ann Taylor, the lead defense attorney, says she's dug her heels and I will not be ready by March. So most likely summer 2025. The prosecution circled back and said, hey, defense, we haven't heard your final word on Brian Koberger's alibi. Where is it? Driving around is not sufficient. We want to know where he drove around, what route, what streets. Do you have any witnesses you're providing? So they have an April 17th deadline to produce that for the prosecution. And then finally, mentions of the suspicious and mysterious videotape. Ann
Mm,
Taylor keeps bringing up this videotape. If you listen to my episode with Kate Casey on her podcast today, I explain I think it's body camera. And I
mhm.
think most likely that body camera, because Ann Taylor has made a comment that it's several days long, I believe there is a possibility Brian Koberger wore a body camera. And I explain it all on Reality Life with Kate Casey today. But it's very disturbing to think about the fact that we know, based on the probable cause affidavit, that he was near the crime scene at least 12 times. It would potentially make sense. He would wear a body camera so he could go back and
He
study
doesn't live
it.
in that area, so why is he in that area 12 times?
Exactly, exactly. And then did he wear it while he allegedly committed the crimes? Because he was studying behavior of criminals who commit crimes. What are your feelings? What are your emotions? That's what his entire Reddit survey was about. So the defense attorney keeps bringing up this video. To me, I think this video could be bigger than the knife sheath.
So if he's wearing, because you're saying we're not talking body cam of a cop because that wouldn't be days long, it would just be hours long.
Correct, correct. And this was the biggest case in Moscow history. Police aren't going to wait days to download that
Mhm.
video from their body cam. Um, you know, from a first responder who responded to that crime scene the morning of the murders, they're going to download that right away to help their investigators who have to process that crime scene for the next several days. They want to be able to look at that. So to me, I think it was a body cam system that he potentially had that every time he went out, it just kept adding on. The way, our old VCR tapes, like we would tape something and then we'd tape another show. I think it's the same type of thing. And then in my experience, body cam systems have a built-in 30-second delay by the manufacturer, and that's put in there for privacy concerns. The fact that Ann Taylor keeps saying we have to marry up the audio and video on this really important tape, to me, it all just points to a body cam video. So we'll see.
That's disgusting and wild and so like beyond the realm.
Disturbing.
But one imagines if there is this footage of this body cam stuff, they either found it on his computer or they actually found like the body cam system, and then they have to now get it on their computers and then match up the audio. Okay. But they've had a lot of time. So why haven't they done it?
Well, it does take a long time to do that. It really does. And I'm wondering if potentially it somehow wasn't on a computer. Well, it could be the computer was locked and they had to break into the computer and figure out how to get around the password. I also think that's what's taking so long with the cell phones. I think they had to break into his cell phones because they didn't have the passcode. And that can take sometimes over a year to figure it out. So I think that is part of the whole delay. And of course, the defense, I think they're worried. She keeps bringing up this video. She's worried about this video. And everyone forgets that everything in the probable cause affidavit, that was all pre-arrest. Some of the biggest evidence in my career as an FBI agent, it came after the arrest. When you're executing your search warrants, what do you find after arrest? So we could have the biggest evidence that we don't know about, and it could be this video.
I know you explained to me on an earlier episode why it can't possibly be, this year. And at some point you think they're going to have enough evidence against him that he's going to have to plead. Or is he such a narcissist? He's like, take it to trial. You're not going to be able to get me. I've covered all my tracks.
He might be. I mean, ultimately it's his decision. His defense attorneys could try to counsel him. Look, there's no way out. We could get the death penalty taken off the table for you. And if he says no, he's the boss. So we'll see. We'll see.
Wow. Well, as always, you guys, Jodi has all this information. So tell everybody about your Patreon and your social media and all that jazz.
Thank you. I am on patreon.com/caughtinmyweb 5 days a week with breaking true crime news.
5 days a week, y'all. 5 days a week.
Plus twice a month on Saturdays with cold cases, unsolved cold cases. You can find me on Twitter at Jodene Weber, my website, jodeneweber.com. I'm on TikTok at Jodene Weber and on Instagram at Weber Jodene.
Wow. Okay, you've got the website, Jodene Weber, and then Instagram is Weber Jodene. Do I assume somebody else already had that?
I think I just set it up wrong in my technology incompetence, but ultimately that's where the followers are and they find me. So I appreciate everybody. And thank you again for having me back. I love talking with you.
Oh God, that's so funny. I just set it up wrong. That's just, you guys, we are ladies of a certain age.
We sure are.
We sure are.
Thank God for our kids.
Guys, remember, please follow me over on Pink Shade Pod. We're putting up some fun reels about Love is Blind. Also, that's on the TikTok at Pink Shade Podcast. So I will talk to everybody here on the public feed next week. We've got Love is Blind. We've got 90 Day Fiance. And we've got, I think, Ryan Bailey talking about Bravo next week. Everything else is on Prime. And you can find all of that in the link tree on Instagram or below in the show notes. And thank you very much, Jodi.
Thanks again, Mary Payne. Great to see you.
Ads not read by me, Mary Payne, don't necessarily reflect the views of Pink Shade. If you'd like to listen to ad-free, you're going to go on over to Supercast or Patreon, and you can find the links to Pink Shade Prime at pinkshadepodcast.com.